Vietnam, a small nation, yet a giant in spirit. For millennia, Vietnam has faced down empires. It has repelled invaders and overcome hardship. This is a land where ancient traditions meet modern aspirations, where bustling cities rise amidst emerald rice paddies, and where the echoes of the past mingle with the hopes of the future. We will embark on a journey through the annals of Vietnamese history, from its ancient origins to its modern-day resurgence. This is not just a story of war and hardship. It is a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Vietnamese people. Our journey begins in the mists of time. We travel back to the birth of civilization in Vietnam, to a time of mythical kings and legendary heroes, from the fertile plains of the Red River Delta to the imperial capital of Hue. We will trace the footsteps of emperors and scholars. The arrival of European powers in the 19th century cast a long shadow over Vietnam. French colonialism brought about profound changes. The struggle for independence culminated in the Vietnam War. This devastating conflict, a pivotal chapter in the Cold War, left an indelible mark on Vietnam and the world. We will hear first-hand accounts from those who lived through this tumultuous period. But Vietnam's story does not end with war. From the ashes of conflict, a new Vietnam emerged, a nation determined to rebuild and forge a brighter future. Our journey begins in the midst of prehistory, over 4,000 years ago, in the fertile plains of the Red River Delta. Archaeological evidence whispers of a people known as the Dong Son, skilled bronze casters and rice cultivators. Their intricate drums, adorned with scenes of daily life and mythical creatures, offer a glimpse into a vibrant culture that flourished millennia ago. These ancient inhabitants laid the foundation for a unique cultural identity. As centuries passed, the Dong Son culture gave way to more complex social structures. Villages grew into chiefdoms, and from these emerged the first stirrings of a unified Vietnamese state. Section 2, Legends and Lineages, the First Dynasties. One legend tells of the Hung Kings, descendants of a dragon lord and a fairy princess. These mythical rulers are said to have founded the first Vietnamese dynasty, the Hong Bang, in 2879 BC. The reign of the Hung Kings, spanning over 2 millennia, is often referred to as the Age of the Gods. The historical record becomes clearer with the emergence of the Trieu dynasty in the 3rd century BC. Trieu Da, a Chinese general, conquered the last Hung King and established the kingdom of Nam Viet. Section 3, A Kingdom Divided, a Culture Forged. The arrival of the Han Dynasty in 111 BC marked the beginning of over 1,000 years of Chinese domination. Vietnam, under the name Jiao Qi, became a province of the Han Empire. Despite the challenges of Chinese rule, the Vietnamese people retained a distinct cultural identity. One such rebellion, led by the Trung sisters in 40 AD, stands as a testament to the Vietnamese spirit. These 2 women, rallying their people against oppression, embody the courage and determination that would characterize Vietnam's long struggle for independence. Section 4. The enduring legacy of the Lai dynasty. After centuries of Chinese rule, Vietnam finally regained independence in the 10th century AD. The Lai dynasty, founded by Li Tai Tu in 1009, ushered in a golden age for Vietnam. Lai Tai Tu established Hanoi as the capital, built temples and pagodas, and fostered a flourishing of arts and literature. The Lai dynasty is credited with laying the foundations for an independent and prosperous Vietnam. This period saw the emergence of distinctive Vietnamese art, architecture, and literature. Section 5, Echoes of Grandeur, the Rise and Fall of Empires. Following the Lai dynasty, Vietnam witnessed the rise and fall of several powerful dynasties. The Tran dynasty repelled 3 Mongol invasions in the 13th century. The Li dynasty, which succeeded the Tran, oversaw a period of expansion and cultural flourishing. However, internal strife and power struggles eventually weakened the Li dynasty. The country was split into 2 rival factions, the Trin in the north and the Nuyen in the south. Section 1. Shadows of Empire, the arrival of the French. As the 19th century dawned, European colonialism was making its presence felt across Asia. Vietnam, weakened by internal divisions, would soon find itself drawn into this vortex of imperial ambition. The French, having established a foothold in Cochinchina, gradually extended their control over the country. The arrival of the French marked a turning point in Vietnamese history. The seeds of resentment sown in this era of colonial domination would eventually blossom into a powerful movement for national liberation. Section 2. The Weight of the Tricolour, Life under French Rule. Life under French rule was a study in contradictions. The French administration implemented reforms in education, healthcare and infrastructure. Education, while expanded, was primarily geared towards creating a class of Vietnamese civil servants loyal to the French administration. The French also introduced a cash crop economy, encouraging the cultivation of rubber, tea and coffee for export. The weight of colonial rule fell heaviest on the peasantry, who bore the brunt of taxation, forced labour and land confiscation. Section 3. Seeds of Dissent, the Rise of Vietnamese Nationalism. Despite the oppressive nature of French rule, the Vietnamese spirit remained unbroken. Inspired by their own history of resistance and influenced by new ideas from the West, a new generation of Vietnamese leaders emerged. Early nationalist movements drew inspiration from various sources. Nationalist organizations, often operating underground, sprang up across the country. The French response to this growing tide of nationalism was swift and brutal. Section 4. A Nation Divided. The struggle for independence begins. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 had a profound impact on Vietnam. Tens of thousands of Vietnamese were sent to Europe as laborers and soldiers. The end of the war in 1918 brought little respite for Vietnam. The failure of peaceful attempts to secure independence led to the radicalization of the nationalist movement. New leaders such as Ho Chi Minh emerged, advocating for armed struggle against French colonialism. Section 1. The Winds of Change, the Second World War and its Aftermath. The outbreak of World War II in 1939 sent shockwaves across the globe. For Vietnam, occupied by the French and yearning for independence, the war presented both peril and opportunity. Japanese forces occupied Vietnam, initially alongside the Vichy French administration. The Viet Minh, a communist-led independence movement founded by Ho Chi Minh in 1941, gained strength. As the war in the Pacific raged on, the Viet Minh played a crucial role in resisting the Japanese occupation. Section 2. A Declaration from the Jungle, the First Indochina War. The end of World War II in 1945 heralded a new era, but for Vietnam, it also marked the beginning of a long and bloody struggle for independence. As the victorious Allied powers met to redraw the map of the post-war world, the Vietnamese people, inspired by the promise of self-determination, dared to dream of a future free from colonial rule. On September 2, 1945, in Hanoi's Ba Dinh Square, Ho Chi Minh, standing before a sea of cheering Vietnamese, read the Declaration of Independence, proclaiming the birth of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. The declaration, echoing the words of the American Declaration of Independence, resonated deeply with the people yearning for freedom and self-determination. The French, however, were not willing to relinquish their colonial jewels so easily. Determined to reassert their authority, French forces returned to Vietnam, igniting the First Indochina War. What began as a struggle for independence soon escalated into a proxy war, a microcosm of the emerging Cold War rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. The Viet Minh, led by General Vo Nguyen Giap, a brilliant military strategist, waged a relentless guerrilla war against the better-equipped French forces. They utilized their knowledge of the terrain, their close ties with the peasantry, and their unwavering determination to wear down the enemy. Section 3, Divided We Stand, a nation partitioned. The First Indochina War raged on for 8 long years, a brutal conflict that claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese and French soldiers. The French, despite early victories, found themselves increasingly bogged down in a costly and unwinnable war. The Viet Minh, though outnumbered and outgunned, grew stronger with each passing year, their resolve hardened by sacrifice and their ranks swelled by popular support. The turning point in the war came in 1954 at the Battle of Dien Bien Phu. The Viet Minh, under Giap's leadership, laid siege to a heavily fortified French outpost in northwestern Vietnam. The battle, which raged for 55 days, was a testament to the Viet Minh's tactical brilliance, their tenacity, and their willingness to endure unimaginable hardships. The fall of Dien Bien Phu sent shockwaves through France and marked a decisive victory for the Viet Minh. It forced the French to the negotiating table, leading to the Geneva Accords of 1954, which officially ended the First Indochina War. The Geneva Accords, while recognizing Vietnam's independence, also stipulated a temporary partition of the country along the 17th parallel. The North would be governed by the Communist Democratic Republic of Vietnam, led by Ho Chi Minh, while the South would become the State of Vietnam, a non-communist state with close ties to the West. Section 4, The Quagmire, America's War in Vietnam. The partition of Vietnam set the stage for a divisive conflict. America's war in Vietnam was a key Cold War conflict. Fearing the domino theory, the US supported South Vietnam. The US sent advisors and aid, escalating to combat troops. The war transformed into a full-scale conflict. American soldiers fought in dense jungles. The Viet Cong used guerrilla tactics, supported by the North Vietnamese army. The Ho Chi Minh Trail was crucial. Despite superior firepower, the US struggled with guerrilla warfare. Heavy reliance on air power led to civilian casualties, fueling Vietnamese resentment. Section 5, The Fall of Saigon, Victory and Reunification. The Vietnam War raged on for years, claiming millions of lives. The conflict deeply divided American society, sparking massive protests. By the early 70s, the tide had turned. The American public demanded an end to US involvement. The Paris Peace Accords in '73 led to US withdrawal. This left South Vietnam vulnerable. In spring '75, North Vietnam launched a massive offensive. On April 30th, '75, Saigon fell, ending the war. The fall marked the end of a long struggle for reunification. It signaled the decline of American influence and the rise of communism. Reunification came at a heavy price. The war left Vietnam devastated and its economy in ruins. Millions were dead, countless wounded, and families torn apart. Yet amidst the ruins, there was hope for a new chapter. The challenges of reunification. The fall of Saigon in 1975 marked the end of the Vietnam War and the beginning of reunification. Vietnam was finally a unified country. But the road ahead was fraught with challenges. The war had left its mark on the physical landscape and social fabric. The reunification process was difficult. North and South had to find a way to coexist and rebuild. There were suspicions, resentments, and cultural differences. The communist government faced the task of integrating the South's economy. The economy was in shambles. Years of war had destroyed infrastructure and disrupted agriculture. the government implemented a centralized economic plan. These measures led to economic inefficiencies and hardship. The government also faced the challenge of healing the wounds of war. Millions had been killed, wounded, or displaced. Families were torn apart, communities shattered. The process of reconciliation and healing would be long and arduous. The government encouraged unity and forgiveness, but also had to contend with lingering trauma and loss. Section 2. A Phoenix Rising: Economic Reforms and the Road to Recovery. By the mid-1980s, Vietnam's economy was struggling. The centralized planning system, coupled with international isolation and trade embargoes imposed by the United States and its allies, had stifled growth and led to widespread poverty. The Vietnamese government, recognizing the need for change, embarked on a series of economic reforms known as Doi Moi, meaning renewal. Doi Moi marked a significant departure from the strict socialist policies of the past. It introduced elements of a market economy, encouraging private enterprise, foreign investment, and international trade. The government gradually loosened its control over industries, allowing for greater competition and innovation. Farmers were given more autonomy and incentives to increase production. These reforms, though initially met with resistance from some within the Communist Party, had a transformative effect on the Vietnamese economy. Foreign investment poured in, attracted by Vietnam's low labor costs, strategic location, and growing domestic market. New industries, particularly in manufacturing, textiles, and tourism, began to flourish, creating jobs and boosting economic growth. Vietnam's economic miracle, as it came to be known, lifted millions out of poverty and transformed the country from one of the poorest in the world to a lower middle-income nation. Cities like Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi underwent rapid modernization, with skyscrapers rising amidst ancient temples and bustling streets teeming with commerce. Section 3, Opening Doors: Vietnam embraces the world. As Vietnam's economy boomed, so too did its engagement with the wider world. The government, pragmatic and focused on development, pursued a foreign policy of diversification and integration, seeking to normalize relations with former adversaries and build new partnerships. In 1994, the United States, once Vietnam's bitter enemy, lifted its trade embargo, paving the way for a normalization of relations. The following year, Vietnam joined the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, further solidifying its integration into the regional and global economy. Vietnam also joined the World Trade Organization in 2007, signaling its commitment to free trade and international cooperation. Vietnam's re-emergence on the world stage was not without its challenges. The government, while embracing economic liberalization, maintained tight control over political life. Freedom of speech, assembly and the press remained restricted, and human rights groups continued to raise concerns about the treatment of dissidents and activists. Despite these challenges, Vietnam's story in the decades following reunification is one of remarkable transformation. The country, once ravaged by war and divided by ideology, had emerged as a dynamic and increasingly prosperous nation, a testament to the resilience of its people and the vision of its leaders. Healing the wounds, honoring the past. The legacy of war casts a long shadow. Millions live with physical and emotional scars. Unexploded ordnance poses a constant threat. Agent Orange continues to cause health problems. The government emphasizes heroism and justness. Veterans come together for reconciliation. Organizations clear ordnance and aid victims. Vietnam's journey of healing reminds us of the human cost of conflict and the importance of peace. Vietnam's enduring spirit. From ancient rice paddies to battlefields scarred by war, from imperial palaces to bustling cities, the rise and fall of dynasties, the struggle against colonialism and the triumph of reunification. The enduring spirit of the Vietnamese people, remarkable resilience and ability to overcome adversity, preserving culture amidst foreign influence and rebuilding lives after wars, a testament to endurance and adaptation. Vietnam stands transformed, a vibrant economy, grappling with modernization while preserving heritage. The echoes of the past resonate, but optimism prevails. The spirit of resilience guides Vietnam into the future. Section 2. Looking ahead. Vietnam's place in the world. As Vietnam looks to the future, it faces both opportunities and challenges. Its burgeoning economy, young and increasingly urbanized population, and strategic location in Southeast Asia position it for continued growth and influence on the regional and global stage. Vietnam's economic success will depend on its ability to continue its reforms, fostering innovation, attracting foreign investment, and developing a skilled workforce. It must also address issues of income inequality, environmental sustainability, and corruption to ensure that the benefits of growth are shared by all. On the global stage, Vietnam is emerging as a voice for developing nations, advocating for multilateralism, peaceful resolution of disputes, and a rules-based international order. Its experience as a nation that has known both war and peace gives it a unique perspective on the importance of diplomacy and cooperation. Vietnam's journey is far from over. Challenges remain, but so too does the indomitable spirit that has carried it through centuries of turmoil. As Vietnam continues its remarkable transformation, it serves as an inspiration to the world, a testament to the power of resilience, the importance of hope, and the enduring belief in a brighter future.